everybody to the Soapbox. Today we have a special returning guest, Mark Reed. We've introduced him once before, but we'll introduce him again today. He has dedicated most of his adult life to public service. He's a military veteran, Navy, and served his fellow Americans with honor for about 10 years. Building on this desire to help others, Mark became a social services child welfare specialist and retired to Virginia after 25 years of keeping children safe and families together. Mark currently lives in Lexington with his wife of 20 years. He's running for delegate for the
24th district.
The 24th district, there you go, with a simple message. Public service means you give more than you get. Over his career, Mark saw firsthand the lack of accountability and transparency in government. In 2016, he helped expose systemic corruption in the Rockbridge Area Department of Social Services and made a personal and successful appeal to the Virginia Social Services Board of Directors to intervene and investigate, something never accomplished before in the state of Virginia. And then just last year, Mark helped local and statewide activists who played a significant role in the eventual passage of House Bill 1301, which established the Office of the Children's Ombudsman, a position created to investigate complaints against local departments of social services. And we'll talk more about that during the interview. But anyway, Mark, welcome back.
Thanks, you.
And of course, I failed to mention the fact that we have Cher here. It's me and Cher together here.
Howdy, Cher, and thanks for asking me on.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you. Could I start by just having you, I know, and I'm sure if you does, if you could tell our audience the 24th district represents what areas?
The 24th district represents all of Bath County, some of Augusta County, all of Rockbridge County, most of Amherst County, and the cities of Lexington and Buena Vista.
Okay, and then of course the last time that Mark joined us was his first podcast. First time that he did a podcast. He's not real experienced in this political technology that we're using today, but again, it's really good to have him. Go ahead, Cher. I kind of lost it for a second. Did you have a question for him right off?
Yeah, one of the questions that I'd like to ask is, with all of your background and experience, could you share with our audience what you feel is your best attributes and your shortcomings that would help you or hurt you, either one or both, as a delegate with not having any experience in being an elected official?
Well, I lost you there at the end, but I got the gist of the question, Chair.
Yeah. In other words, if you haven't been, this is the first time running for office. So with that in mind, try to answer the question for us.
Well, it's my first time ever running for public office, but it's not my first time as a public servant. I have 35 years of public service under my belt, starting with the Navy, 10 years in the Navy, 25 years as a child welfare professional. I've been in front of courts. I've been in front of people. I've investigated cases of abuse and neglect. I've looked at bills, legislation. I've helped pass bills. I've introduced bills. I've done, frankly, and I told Bruce Young with WDBJ today, he interviewed me today. But in the time that Ronnie Campbell has been in office, I've accomplished more as on my own time and my own dime than Ronnie Campbell has accomplished in the House of Delegates. I'm not short on experience in terms of public service.
Well, there is a big difference though, Mark, and that's my point. If you could decide that you don't have a lot of public service and you've been in the Navy, and that's certainly doing something for our country, but there is a difference in the job as a delegate in what you have to do. It's more than writing bills and passing. And I thought maybe you wanted to add something to that.
Serving your community, talking to the people that live in your community. I've done plenty of that. I've been doing that ever since I came to the state of Virginia in 2016, and I've been doing that for 4 months now in the 24th district.
Okay, but but I'm still looking for something that you can add to that. You don't have, in all of this that you've had in the background, you haven't had constituents that are calling you up and saying, I don't like what you did this last time. How, where is
Well,
the
actually,
experience?
obviously I haven't, because I haven't been elected. What I have been doing for over 25 years is working with constituents that would be citizens, the people who pay my salary, calling me up and dealing with me for the past, well, until I retired, but for 25 years. I've done everything that Ronnie Campbell has done in the same period of time, except obviously I wasn't a state police officer.
Right, okay, well, that's what I was looking for. So, and the other part of the question is just any shortcomings that you think that you may have to work on, or something that you may feel, or somebody has already said you lack in something. Would you want to share that, or is there anything that comes to mind?
Here, let me jump in here for just a second here, because I got one. The last time that we interviewed you, Mark, we talked about, or you talked a little bit about your inexperience with guns and that sort of thing, because you're not a shooter. I'm a big time shooter. You're not a big time shooter, and that's okay with me. But afterwards, after we had posted the video, a couple people made comments, and here's Ray's TV that said this. He said, if he wants my vote, I would encourage Mark to go to a gun store and talk with the people working there to purchase his first firearm. I don't feel comfortable voting for someone who has never owned, shot, or even touched a gun. And then there was a response to that. Christian Raymond said this, fair enough. Meanwhile, Delegate Campbell endorsed and campaigns with Delegate Davis for Lieutenant Governor, who voted for red flag laws. I prefer a brutally honest person like Mark, who doesn't pretend to be someone that he isn't. So what do you think? Do you need to be a shooter to, because Second Amendment rights are a big deal in this district.
Constitutional rights are a big deal in this district. Constitutional rights are a big deal in the United States of America, and I'm a Second Amendment supporter, always have been. No, I have been to gun stores, and I have talked to people who run gun stores, and I've talked to people who own guns. I don't shoot guns, I never have. If you want to call that a shortcoming, and if a voter doesn't want to vote for me because I don't own a gun and don't know how to shoot a gun, he's an American, and he has a right to cast his own vote based on his own opinion. If that's his criteria, that he should cast a vote for the person that he thinks is an expert shooter and a longtime gun owner. I'm not a longtime gun owner. I've never owned a gun. I've never shot a gun. I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm not ashamed of supporting the Second Amendment. And I'm certainly not ashamed to have people that I know will step up and protect me if they're gun owners. So that's what I would have to say to that.
So you didn't even shoot in the Navy?
No, I did. I was a Navy cook.
Oh.
And cooks don't shoot guns. They serve food, make food, and make sure the morale of a Navy warship is high at all times. And that's all I did for 10 years was be the chief morale officer on a Navy battleship, if you want to look at it that way.
That's good. I had another question, kind of back to your history here, is the work that you did on the House bill. That you were successful in making that happen, but the governor, in fact, has not created a position, the ombudsman position. And I understand that you have done something about that recently too. Could you tell us about that?
The governor signed the Children's Ombudsman bill into law 15 months ago. That bill started with me and explaining how to get it passed to Delegate Chris Hurst, who then got Delegate Terry Austin on board and passed that legislation. I was a significant part of that. And that law did pass because the governor signed it into law. That was 15 months ago. The government never appointed a children's ombudsman. In other words, the government didn't follow the law that he signed. Okay, so what I did is I went to the Rockbridge County Courthouse and I filed what's called a writ of mandamus, which is similar in concept to a show cause request, asking a judge to explain, to tell Governor Northern and explain why he hasn't appointed the children's ombudsman and why or when he's going to do it.
Okay, and have you heard anything from that yet, or?
I haven't heard a peep on that yet. but I will, if the court is doing its job and if Governor Northam is doing his job.
Okay. Cher, did you want to jump in on that or you have another question?
Yeah, I have another, no, I don't have anything on that. I kind of knew that. I was trying to follow it up. I know this is late into the campaign mark and if we don't have many days left, it'll be next Tuesday. But I wanted to make a point and ask a question. I've noticed that for quite a while, we've had most campaigns, and it's at all levels, not so much maybe at the congressional level, but certainly below that. All of the flyers that come out that you've been seeing, and even the latest ones regarding this primary, all talk about being pro-life, pro-guns, pro-First Amendment, which is basically a GOP platform. If you're not pro for those things, you're not a Republican. And so I'm wondering why, and I have my viewpoints, but maybe you could jump in on this and with what little time there is left. Why aren't more talking about the issues, the things that they're going to do when they get into office a lot more than just saying, just repeating the GOP platform, which is very frustrating to a lot of the constituents, people that I talk to every day. Say, what does he stand for? We all stand for this, in the list I just listed. And they're not going into ones because they may be controversial. They may not get both sides of the party. And we have both sides of the party. There's a lot of denied that there are two sides to the Republican Party, but it's there. We all see it. If you're a true conservative, you'll talk about the issues and you'll be honest, like I've known you to be. And so if you would like to talk about that and your viewpoints on that, or anything that you could help in this last few days before the election.
Well, Delegate Campbell, well, he should be driving the conversation, considering that he's asking to be reelected. And really, on Delegate Campbell's part, the burden should be on him to talk about the real issues as opposed to the obvious issues. I haven't been discussing the national issues, the big platform issues. Those have happened mostly on a statewide basis with the candidates for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and so forth. What I've been talking about is things that are important to the 24th district. And that's been my driving force. If Delegate Campbell wants to make a case for re-election, then maybe Delegate Campbell should explain why he should be re-elected. And all I've really heard is what I see on his signs. He's a tested conservative. I would say that, a tested conservative is always wonderful to say that you're a tested conservative. I guess my question would be, are you a successful delegate and have you represented the people that you're supposed to represent? And the answer to that, in my opinion, would be no. In fact, I'd say that if you want to call yourself a tested conservative, then he's failed test on several levels. That'd be my response.
Well, let me ask you another specific, right along that line then, because Campbell recently said, he said I81 has been severely underfunded for many years and has become a public safety issue. I am happy to support legislation that will bring $150 million per year for I81 improvements. This will benefit economic development and people's safety. However, from what I understand, he had an opportunity to work on the I81 committee that he either didn't take or was not interested in. Jay, could you tell us about that?
Oh, I'm sure he was interested in being on the I81 commission, considering that the then Speaker of the House, Cox, appointed a Republican delegate all along the I81 corridor, except Rock Ridge County. For whatever reason, you'd have to ask you'd have to ask former Speaker Cox, and you'd have to ask Delegate Campbell why he was the only person on the I81 corridor, the only delegate that wasn't appointed to the I81 commission. I would suggest that the reason was because Delegate Campbell, against the advice and suggestion of Speaker Cox, did not ask or did not call for a recount after he won a firehouse primary by one vote in a questionable, on many accounts, election. And there's no debate about that. You can go back and you can read any number of things to talk about that primary election. He won that election by 1 vote. Speaker Cox said you should do a recount. Delegate Campbell refused. And 2 or 3 months later, when it came time to appoint Republicans, because Republicans had the majority at the time, when it came time to appoint Republicans to the I81 Commission, the big black hole on the I81 corridor was Rockbridge County. No representation ever.
Well, I can make a comment on that. I happen to know personally that there were 3 counts that night at the firehouse.
Sherry, you need to speak louder.
Yeah, there were 3 counts that was done that night at the firehouse primary. And the best of the 3 was 1 vote, which is why you heard later on a rumor going around, or a phrase going around for a while, calling Ronnie 1 vote Ronnie. And that's how he got that title. But I do know one of the people that was doing the count, and I happen to know Kurt Cox personally, and and it was verified to me that he had made a strong suggestion. And what had happened was the 2 majorities of within 2 counties had the majority in the 24 district chairs, and the Augusta chair and the Rockbridge chair refused to have a count, and they were the ones who made the decision. Now, it wasn't really Ronnie, in all fairness. It was the 2 chairs, one of which was Doug Smith, RIRC chair. And so they got to vote with the other ones, and they had the majority, and so they didn't do a recount. But that day that they came into that meeting of the 24th district, that most people know about, I was present at that one, and they weren't trying to. We got accused, and I was part of it. They got accused of wanting to rip up the ballots, and that was not the case. There was a rule that nobody in the room knew until it was verified by one person, that our RPV requires the sign-in sheet names and how many people voted, the count of the vote, not the count of the ballots, but the count of the vote. They have to maintain that for 5 years, and they were ready. They wanted to shred everything that day, the counts of the 2 pieces of paper and the ballots. When they found out that, and Jennifer was there, and she was on the phone finding out what was right, what was wrong, and what to do, and everything. Why she was there, I'm really not sure. It was a meeting of the chairs. The district chair didn't really need to be present, but anyway, she was, and one of the ones that did the count at the primary was there to document all of this. And so somebody filmed them shredding the ballots when it was really still being contested. And all they were asking to do is to count those 2 pieces of paper, the check-in and the ones who had done the pledge, and how many pledged and how many check-in, because that's another way to verify the ballots. And they refused to do it, and they kept hemming and hawing about it. And finally, it was Vance Wilkins who said, well, we just come here today to do that. What is anybody else doing? And Doug just kept saying, we got to move on, we got to move on. And he says, well, we're already here. We've got a team here ready to do the count. Was anybody, and then he finally asked the question that stopped it all. He said, who was going out to campaign today? Nobody. So that kind of ended it, but they still would not do the count. And they had control of it. Unit chairs have control of all of the paperwork relative to their unit. As a previous former unit chair, I know how that works.
Well, thanks for the bottom line, Cher.
Yep. So that's what happened, and we've got plenty of witnesses for that. But I can't say that Ronnie was behind it, and he wasn't there that day. I just do know that Speaker Cox, who I know, like I said, I know well, said that there should have been a recount.
Okay. Did you want to add anything to that, Mark?
Well, Cher pretty much summed it up. All I would have to say is, if I find myself in a position where I'm winning or losing by 1 vote, there's going to be a recount, because you can't be elected under a questionable primary which was unorganized, poorly done from start to beginning. I was there. And with allegations coming from all parts of the district saying that people weren't allowed to vote. They were told that they were in the wrong district when they knew they were in the right district. Allegations that there were ballots that were hidden and laying on the floor and improperly counted or removed. Plenty of witnesses that talk about that. Gosh, it kind of sounds like one of the things that the Delegate Campbell was critical of regarding the presidential election when he was calling for election integrity. But there were certainly plenty of calls for election integrity with Ronnie Campbell's election to the House
Well,
of
they
Delegates.
should have counted again because they had 3 counts with 3 different numbers.
Well,
And the one was the
I wasn't there.
Yeah, see, that was what was wrong with it. When you have 3 different numbers on 3 counts, you count again.
Well,
You'd be
maybe
able
he
to have
should
the
have.
same number 3 times.
Maybe somebody should ask the vice president to overturn the results of the Rockbridge County election or the 24th district election. I don't know. But I wouldn't be the one to write that letter.
Oh,
Yeah.
no. But you know, that's what happened, and it's all been documented, and there's tape recorders of some of it.
Well, believe it or not, that's actually it. We're out of time. Well, we're not completely out of time. But what I'd like to do, though, as you know, on the soapbox, you get your 2 to 3 minutes on the soapbox. So whenever you're ready, Mark, go for it.
I have knocked on hundreds of doors and spoken with hundreds of constituents in 4 months of campaigning. I have talked to people in every single area in this district, more people than Ronnie Campbell has talked to. I have pounded the pavement every single day or spoken to people every single day about this election since February 12th of this year. I know this district. I know the constituents. I knew them before I started running for delegate. I'm the person that should be elected to the House of Delegates in November of this year. In order to do that, I have to be elected and I have to win this primary race. The voting day is June 8th. You can vote early. You can learn more about me. There's still 5-6 days left. You can go to my website, markreedfordelegate.com. And I will say what I was criticized for last time by several people. I'm not just looking for Republicans to vote for me. I'm not afraid to ask a Democrat for their vote because I'm not afraid to represent every single person in the 24th district. So if you're a Democrat and you want a different delegate to represent you in the House of Delegates, ask for the Republican ballot. There's one race on it. That's me. That's Delegate Campbell. Vote for me. So I am on record amid much criticism for asking for Democrat votes. I'm not afraid of that, and I'm not ashamed of that. And thanks for having me on, Sharon.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for meeting with us today. Good luck in the election. I tell you what, I like pretty much everything that you're saying. And we hope that you'll come back now after you win so that we can beat up on you more and you know, get more information about what's actually happening out there. So
Sure.
I appreciate it. Chair?
Yes, I'm looking forward to this primary being over, and we have a winner. I really wish you a lot of luck, Mark, and I will touch base after this broadcast, and I've got some people that wanted to volunteer, so we can talk about that. But got only a few days left, and I wish you a lot of luck.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thanks a lot. And so for Sharon Hugh, thanks for listening to the Soapbox, for those of you who are listening out there, and we hope to see you all next time around. Bye-bye.
Bye.